Yeah, hi guys. We're really happy to have you here today.
Are there any points or motions on the floor?
Esteemed Senators, I believe that the U.S. should continue in modernizing its nuclear program and upgrading its nuclear arsenals.
I, Tim Kaine, am not in support of the same bill.
We still need to have nuclear weapons, but the money we spend on nuclear weapons every year could be used for better causes.
The nuclear modernization program would cost $1 trillion over 30 years, or approximately $30 billion per year.
Esteemed Senators, America, our great and beloved nation, has more than a sufficient supply of nuclear weapons to destroy the world many times over.
Many of our allies rely on us to protect them, and defunding our nuclear program will make them want to build their own nuclear arsenals. I am in favor of Bill S.2660 because I believe this is the best way to ensure that America remains a dominant figure and a country that others do not want to mess with.
If we can't live in our hallowed ground, what use is some more money? I mean, we need to protect our country. Help the homeless, like maybe get some education, that's great. But if our country is leveled, it won't matter.
What's the main function of our government? I believe that it is our 100% duty to protect American citizens, and we should put that aspect in front of everything. Today, I'm one of the senators representing the Safe Nukes Act, which will increase funding for our various nuclear programs.
I agree with Senator O'Malley that these intercontinental missiles must be kept, as they are a major part that fortifies our world power. Thank you.
If it removes international continental ballistic missiles completely, this is a bill that simply no honest Republican should vote for or could vote for. Thank you.
Almost all of our nuclear warheads are super old, like falling apart, rusting, like bits and pieces old. I do not like the idea of making more nuclear warheads or like causing more debt, but I do think that we need to fix these missiles if we're going to do anything.
The fact that they're old is actually an opportunity that we can take to modernize our nuclear arsenal and make this country safer for generations to come.
The chairs would just really like to encourage everyone to start making motions because it's one really easy way to get speaking. And, you know, especially right off the bat, like I think that's really important, especially if this is one of your first debates ever.
Nuclear modernization. People say it costs too much. It's too expensive. Well, I have one thing to say. There is no price on freedom.
Russia already spends a third of its military budget just on nuclear weapon development.
We need to modernize all aspects of our nuclear weapons program so that we can project ourselves as a world power.
The current money that we were spending on the nuclear program is way less than what this current proposition of $1 trillion is.
That's not the point of modernizing nuclear weapons. The point is to ensure other countries that they won't need to develop their own nuclear weapons.
We want to be able to reduce the cost yet modernize at the same time, and possibly at a shorter span of time than 30 years.
It costs money to deassemble and neutralize the missiles, the old missiles, and storage costs.
We are trying to get cut down on the missiles that we have to about 1,000 missiles, then modernize them. So that would only cost about $250 billion in 3 years.
We should get rid of these weapons so that we can spend less money, since it takes a lot to keep them.
When you dispose of a nuke or a nuclear weapon, we do it every year because of the START agreement, and we're required to do it every year, and so it's just a slight ramp up from that. And we already have funds in place to store nuclear missiles because we've been, again, doing it for many years.
Just announced that it will be fitted with hypersonic 3M22 missiles, and that will be completed between 2019 and 2022. Each will have 4 to 8 missiles. They haven't decided on that yet. And they will hopefully, for the Russians, expand combat mission scope so they can target more places more quickly and more powerfully.
Russia has clearly tried to take a stand against us and to flex their power as a nation. And for the countries that do not have the nuclear technology that some of the P5 nations have, we should either try to reach out to them or find a way to prevent a nuclear arms race so that nations all over the world are not stocking up with nuclear weapons.
So all those in favor of extending support to states who are threatened by nuclear weapons, please raise your placards now. All those opposed? Okay, so it seems pretty split 50-50, but there are a lot of people abstaining. Motion for a 7-minute unmoderated caucus. All those in favor, please raise your placards. This passes. You have 7 minutes.
Fellow senators, I feel like we are now starting to make progress with the merger of these two bills, the FAD and the SAFE Act. And with this new progress, we can now safely and effectively protect our country from threats.
So why do you need a merge?
Got 4 minutes, let's go.
Does anyone have any ideas that they feel hasn't been debated yet?
Guys, you have like a minute and a half left.
3 seconds.
2 seconds. 1 second. Okay, delegates, please sit.
Okay, are there any points or motions on the floor? Senator Graham.
Motion to introduce
Please rise.
the SAFE Act.
All those in favor, please raise your placards now.
$139 billion goes towards SSBN-X, which is the newer, better submarine program. And then once that submarine program is finished, then the Ohio class, the older outdated one, will be dismantled.
This is going to make sure that the B-2 bombers are going to be fixed and modernized.
So we're putting $5.3 billion into ballistic missile defense, further research and development, and $4.7 billion into hypersonic ballistic missiles. So like the Russian missile, the Indian missile, the ones that go faster than sound. We're investigating that. Okay.
Could the RLSO missiles reduce the threshold of nuclear bombs being deployed and increase the possibility of a nuclear war?
Are you aware that at the current rate, North Korea has literally no chance of hitting the United States accurately?
Even if North Korea isn't a threat, the Russians do have a Sarmat missile, which likely isn't used for any target other than us, realistically. Among Russia's allies, it doesn't make sense to use it on any country that they dislike other than us.
Hi, I'm an American citizen, just like all of you. And I was watching this debate on C-SPAN when I realized that we are heading in a direction of extreme peril. This is quickly becoming another Cold War, right down to the letter, right down to the senators that you just heard speaking about their bill, how they need to have a bigger, better arsenal, more modern arsenal than the enemy. And what's happening in Russia is that they're thinking the exact same thing. They're thinking the exact same thing. And you know what will happen? Is that you will pour trillions and trillions of dollars into this new nuclear arms program. And maybe this time we won't be the ones that survive. Maybe this time we'll have the fate of the USSR in our hands.
Are you going to let somebody who you have no idea where his background is from change your minds with his own words? No, you should not.
Senator,
What threshold does this bill set about the use of LRSOs? We don't feel like we should have anything written in law that makes the administrations to come use it in a way that they don't feel is necessary to use it.
But I do not believe, as stated in our resolution currently, that we should offer protection to those countries because it risks our own people and our own citizens in our own country.
If we do not help them and protect our allies, they will question the guarantee of their safety from us. And if we do share and protect each other, it will make both the U.S. and our allies more powerful and strong.
We would be giving them insurance that if anyone were to attack them with a nuclear weapon, we would respond for them.
So we should approach this with plenty of caution.
But if a war ever broke out and we were shot with a nuclear weapon on behalf of protecting another country, it would be very detrimental to our own country and would kill hundreds of thousands of our citizens.
It doesn't happen that often because most countries know, or pretty much all countries know, if they drop a nuclear bomb on someone, there are probably going to be many allies of that country that are going to come straight after them and probably take them out too.
The countries that we would be offering our protection, our nuclear protection towards, must not have an intent to be aggressive towards groups or people whom the United States considers under its protection. An example of this would be Turkey. Turkey would not be allowed to be under our nuclear protection because of its stance against the Kurds, who we do in fact support.
With our first clause, it is from 2016 to 2026, the U.S. will fund $45 billion for the new long-range strike bomber, also known as the B-21, which is the new bomber the Air Force released a drawing and plans of yesterday. So Clause 2 would, from 2016 to 2026, the U.S. will fund the building of 12 new Ohio replacement-class submarines at a cost of $100 billion.
We are going to entertain a speech from the Secretary of Defense.
Esteemed members of the Senate. Now, it bereaves the Secretary of Defense to learn that the long-range standoff missile has been discarded as part of the nuclear program, as I understand it from our fellow Republicans here. As I understand it, the SAFE Act basically will include all parts of the nuclear upgrade program except the long-range standoff missile, which we believe is a misguided approach.
What's the benefit of using a small nuclear bomb versus just a normal bomb to stop the invaders?
It's basically a magnitude, and the fact that a conventional weapon cannot be dialed down as it's being used or fired, whereas a long-range standoff missile could effectively be dialed down from 100% of its capacity to 0.8% of its capacity. The reason why we can reach anywhere on Earth within a matter of minutes with a nuclear weapon is because we have submarines, it's because we have constant bombers flying around all the time, and because we have land-based systems. Be very careful about withdrawing pieces that could be very fundamental for the whole system to work.
We cannot reduce the number of nuclear warheads we have because otherwise we'll become less powerful and we will not be showing ourselves as an international power. We will be reducing our power in negotiating. We must keep these nuclear warheads, otherwise we will fall behind the other world powers and will therefore become irrelevant in these negotiations.
It doesn't really matter when we have 1,000 of them. I mean, if we launched one of these, that would be a huge international catastrophe. If we launched 10 of them, that would be like something unlike the world has ever seen. And if we launched 100 of them, like civilization would end.
We already have the most military power in the world, so why do we need to make more weapons?
What if Russia has 10,000 nuclear warheads? Do you want to be the country that only has 1,000?
We already have enough nuclear bombs to destroy the world 7 times, so I don't think we need to be able to destroy the world 10 times, a million times.
This was never a question of increasing our nuclear warheads. This was a question of increasing or decreasing the missiles or delivery systems.
And Steve Knight is going with the original Republican standpoint. And right now we've come up with a amendment to the bill that makes it more agreeable to both fronts.
Should the U.S. be concerned about former nuclear weapon states reconstituting a nuclear arsenal? So a lot of it is more driven by the international presence of not only nuclear weapons but also other high-powered missiles. And I think that those are not really answered in this current amendment, which is why the chair doesn't feel that we can really vote as of yet.
Are we in an agreement that everyone's for taking something?
Yeah, I'm for it.
Alright, great. We have 50 minutes to get small little tweaks done, and we don't even have to do that.
For 2016 to 2026, the U.S. will fund the building of the 12 new.
We'll build some new submarines. Keep going.
Yes. And then all the old ones will be phased out. Whatever. Since modernizing America's nuclear arsenal is of paramount importance to our country and its allies, and I feel like the SAFE Act is the best way to do this because it covers the most aspects of the American nuclear program. I urge all of you, regardless of party affiliation, to support me in my voting for the SAFE Act.
One of the main problems of war are civilian casualties. And LRSOs will limit the amount of damage that we can cause on them and target instead only the military bodies.
If you do want to confirm that we will be able to pass this bill, you might want to take the LRSO part out. Just simply because there are so many people here who agree that it's a better bill, it's more comprehensive, but they just cannot, their senators would never, and they would never vote for the LRSO.
You're voting against our bill because you don't like us. It's not because the bill's bad. No, the bill's great.
Exactly.
You just don't like us.
I would like to urge my party to please see sense and vote for the SAFE Act. The FAD Act is now a complete mess.
All those in favor of entering voting procedure, please raise your placards now. Okay, that passes. We are now in voting procedure.
All those in favor of the SANE Act, please raise your placards. Please raise them high. All those opposed.
So with that, the SANE Act is does not pass.
Yeah, the SANE Act.
Woo!
Okay, so all those in favor of the FAD Act, please raise your placards now. Okay, all those opposed. Okay, and with that, the FAD Act also fails. So now we are going to vote on the SAFE Act. All those in favor of the SAFE Act, please raise your placards now.
Yes.
All opposed.
Anybody opposed? Yes.
2. And with that, the SAFE Act
I'm pretty proud of everybody because we were able to pass a bill.
And I also want to give props to the people who wrote the bills before coming in, because that was really helpful to have something to go off of.
And I also just really want to thank Byron, Ted, and Shem because you guys came up with a really, really, really good bill.
Thank you for the awesome bill. It was very interesting debate. It was very fun.
Thank you, chairs. That was like the most dilatory I've ever seen you roll. Like you rejected so many requests.
Thank you.
This is like the most passionate debate I've like ever been in. Definitely for a 1 day, probably for a 3 day. Like people were really into it.
It seemed that every time we would be close to reaching an agreement between the Republican and the Democratic parties, they would throw in some special guest or some crisis that would totally change the ballgame again and again, and it definitely made the debate way more interesting, and I'm truly thankful to you. It was very clear that you guys are very passionate about your positions, very passionate about your parties, and that's awesome.
But you guys were doing great. Like, there was so much group participation, which, like, we both love. And Katarina and Simon both commented on how enthusiastic you guys were, which I think was great. So thank you guys all for fantastic.
Yeah, thanks so much.
You guys were fabulous.
I think that was like most gavel hits per committee.
Really
And
loud.
that,
I will say that.